When I was a child, and most people don't know this unless you know me, and because of my background, a lot of people don't really know me. But I come from a background where I had a mother who was a drunk. Back in the day, we called them drunks, drunkards, winos. My mother wasn't just a drunk. She was a sloppy drunk. And as a kid, I remember going through the stages of first, you know, hoping and praying, Mommy, don't leave us, don't abandon us. And she'll say, oh, I'm not going anywhere. And I wake up one morning and she's gone. And that went on and on and on for years. And that begging and pleading for her to not leave us turned into rage and hate. So by the time when I was a teenager, I hated her because I had many days as an elementary student when we'd be walking home. My mother was so drunk. She wasn't the type of drunk that would go in the house and pass out. She wouldn't even sit on the porch and pass out. She wouldn't even pass out on the grass. She wouldn't even pass out on the sidewalk. We'd be walking home from school, and there my mother is, sloppy drunk, laying in the gutter, passed out. Guess who was ridiculed and laughed at? I hated her. And what was worse, I began to hate myself. And I hated myself because when I would go to the store, all the winos that would sit in front of the store would say, hey, little Margaret. Because everybody thought I looked just like my mother. So guess what? Now, not only do I hate my mother, but now I hate myself. I go from that to becoming a young mother. I had a baby at 17. I didn't know what it was like to be a mother, but I knew what I didn't want for my child. So for my child, I knew I was never going to be a drunk. I would never abandon my child. I would always encourage my child. And all those things I did. But as a young mother, I was very mouthy with my mother because I had no respect for her. And I hated her. And I didn't want her to get too close to my child. But what I found out, a very wise woman, my auntie Beverly, said to me one day, she said to me, you're so busy talking about how you can't stand your mama and how you hate your mama. Did it ever occur to you that your mama hates herself because she couldn't be a mother to you? And maybe that's why she's always drunk? And that hit me like a ball, just a ton of bricks. For the first time, I realized all that anger and rage and hate that I had towards my mother really wasn't hate, but it was my armor. To not let her or anybody else get too close to me because I didn't want to be hurt. So now that I had this epiphany, I had the will now to get to understand what happened to my mother. That she couldn't be a mother to me. But I wasn't ready to run up and hug her because I still, I was young and I was mouthy, I was sassy. I couldn't just run up to her and say, Mom, I love you, give me a hug. No. I had to do what I was capable of doing at that time. So what I began to do first, that was really the first time I really began to start calling out to God and developing my relationship with the Lord. And I praise God for that. If you don't have the Lord in your life, I encourage you to get with someone who will lead you to that altar because that will be your strength throughout life. But I began to look at my mother and what she was able to do. Little stuff. Like, for instance, I was so used to saying, oh, my mom don't know what she's doing. She can't do this, she can't do that. But what I didn't know is what my mother did know how to do. Such as setting a formal table for a 7-course meal. Now that seems so what, but that was a big thing to me because it's like, how could she know that and not be a mother? She knew stuff as simple as tying a tie or wrapping a scarf around her neck and making it all decorative and pretty. To this day, I still can't do that, but she was able to do that. So those are little applications that I use to draw closer to my mother, to build, to close that gap and to begin to build a relationship. Now, I'm going to take you back to that last conversation that I had with my daughter, who was, just the joy of my life. I just love her. I love you too, I love you too. But at any rate, during our conversation that we had together on that September 13th, it brought the understanding of my relationship with my mother full circle. My daughter and I, she was a psychology major. She graduated as a psychology student. And we started talking about my mother. We both called her Mama. I called my mother Mama, so that's what my daughter called her, Mama. And so she said, oh, I would just love to know what happened in her life that caused her to just give up on life the way that she did. And then right at that moment, I said, oh my gosh, I remember. Now, when I was a kid, I was so full of hurt, it didn't matter to me whatever happened to her because I needed a mother. I needed a mother at the time when, on Mother's Day, one morning, I watched my grandfather shoot my grandmother and turn around and shoot himself right in front of my eyes. Jesus. I didn't have a mother there to nurture me. Jesus. So I was angry. I didn't want to think about what she had went through. But now, as an adult, talking to my daughter, I was ready, and it hit me. What happened to my mother? See, what I didn't know or what I didn't want to discuss with my mother or try to understand about my mother is that as a teenager, my mother was pregnant at 14 years old. And back in those days, whatever the husband said, the father of the family said the child had to do, he made her marry. And so here she is, 14 years old, pregnant, taken out of her home that she was in, put into this new environment where it was very abusive. The boy was so angry that they had to marry that he beat her daily until she lost the baby that she was pregnant with. So I should have an older brother. But my mother was beaten down at the age of 14 so bad that she lost the baby. She was carrying a dead baby in her belly. So she never knew how to be a mother. So now, as an adult, I can understand and empathize with her. And now she can console me since I've lost my daughter. And our relationship is strengthened more and more each day. So I will encourage you, I want to encourage you, no matter where you're at in your relationship with your mother or your daughter, no matter what it is, start with today. Yes. Right now. And just say, I love you. And hug one another. And mean it. Yes. That is the first step of the journey of closing that gap. Yes. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.